Hi, I'm David Bennett, and I've turned multiple 10K raises into a reality. That's something that I didn't even think was possible only a few years ago, but I can tell you right now that it is because I've done it. And in this video, I'm going to show you the exact system that I followed to go from a 30K salary to an 80K salary within 5 years. And what's incredible about it is it's repeatable by anyone in any industry. So this works for everyone. Doesn't matter who you are. Doesn't matter whether you're in healthcare, insurance, financial services, work on an oil rig, whatever it is, it works. Whether you're a professional footballer, it still works. Every single role, every single job, this system works for. So why should you care? Because this system makes it simpler and easier to negotiate a raise than most people think. It seems like a complex thing to go out and get a raise. It's not as simpler than you think. There are some hurdles to jump over, but if you follow this process, it'll massively simplify it for you. And on top of that, the cost of not negotiating a raise is extremely high. If you imagine you negotiate a raise a few years into your career, say you negotiate a 5K raise 5 years into your career, you've maybe got 40 years more of your career left. So 5 times 40 is 200K of salary. So that 5K compounds over your whole career. That is a lot of money over your lifetime of your career. If you didn't negotiate the 5K, the next year, when you come around to negotiating a raise that year, you're either going to have to try and make up for the 5K and negotiate a bigger raise, which usually is very difficult to do, or you'll get the 5K at that point, or even less. And at that point, you've missed out on those compounded gains because the person who negotiated the 5K will negotiate 5K, get the compounded gains across their career, then they'll negotiate again and get another set of compounded gains over their career. Whereas if you've not done that, you miss out on that initial set of compounded gains, and then you're always playing catch up. So it's a massive cost to your career of not negotiating. So that's why this video is so important, and that's why I'm sharing this system with you today, so that you can use it to make sure that you don't miss out on those high salaries, those big raises. But I'm going to start by telling you a bit of a story which will illustrate the system to you a bit. So if you picture this, I have been pushing myself incredibly hard, working tirelessly over about a year-long period, really, really hard. And I was certain that I was due for a big raise, about 20%, and I'd asked for 20%. So I'm sitting there, my palms are sweating, and I'm going into the call with my manager. And eventually, after what seems like an age of waiting, I join the call, and she's waiting there. And can you guess what she said? Maybe you've predicted it, but she said that you're not getting the raise that you want. And my stomach just hit the floor, just twisted. It was one of those gut-wrenching moments where you feel like it was all for nothing and that you're not being recognized, and you start to question yourself. Maybe you're not worth what you thought. And I was really frustrated, starting to get a little bit angry on the call, but I didn't let that come through. I politely kind of accepted, because I knew that I needed some time to reflect and figure out what my best next steps were. But that was a very, very difficult moment, and that's where this story climaxes. But we're going to build back up to that. I'm going to jump back a year, and I'm going to tell you a bit about how it started. So about a year before this moment where I didn't get the raise that I was looking for, I had just been promoted into my first head of department gig, and I was nervous about it, but excited at the same time. It was a new thing. It was a new team that I was taking on. I'd had a couple of management gigs before that, but this was a much larger team. And I committed to myself that I was going to do the best job I could possibly do over the next year, because I wanted to be able to get another big raise in a year's time. And I knew that that was possible if I smashed it. So I committed to myself that I was going to do that. And I committed to myself that I was going to share that ambition with my manager as well. And I was aiming for another chunky, about 20% raise. So 20%, I just got another 20% I wanted, which is hard to do, but I was shooting big and I knew it was achievable. So what happened? I started the process of being, the year of being head of department, and things started to go pretty well. Like, I was running the team, but not a huge amount changed until I was on holiday, and I never get calls from work on holiday. And I got a call from one of the senior leadership team, and they told me that we were about to have, when I got back, a mammoth audit into all of our records in the area of that I'm owning. And it was going to completely overhaul all of our end-to-end processes that we had to build. We had to fix all of our data. We had to backfill a load of information. And it was going to cause a load of our users to be kicked off the system, which we would then have to bring back in. And a lot of them wouldn't come back, so we'd have to replace them. And that was going to cause another massive issue. So first, you've got to get over the audit, and then there's going to be a huge issue of a gap of users that we have to make up in order to supply the platform. So there were two massive problems that I was going to have to overcome. And initially, I was very nervous about that because it's my first year leading a team. This is the first time I've got this level of responsibility, and these are two of the biggest challenges that the business has ever faced. And the two biggest challenges of my career coming back to back. And that is a hard thing to face up to. But I asked myself, I initially was nervous, feeling like it was going to be maybe too much for me. But I asked myself, well, what have I just committed to? I've committed to doing an incredible job, doing the best job I possibly could. And what I've actually just been served up is the biggest opportunity to do that. If I could smash these two things, solve them and do them well, I've conclusively proven that I'm deserving of that 20% raise. And I've conclusively proven that I am a top performer. And so I switched the way I was thinking about it. And I went in and really pushed myself to attack these problems as they came at me. So those were kind of the two things that I was working on throughout the year. And it turns out that, to kind of zoom forward without going into too much detail, I did achieve those things that I was aiming to. I got us through the audit, made the changes of our processes, and we passed with the support of an amazing team. And I, again, with the support of an amazing team, was able to lead us to solve the gap in users. That was thousands of users. So I managed to do it. And so I had this great foundation to bring to my manager to ask for my raise. And that's why we're kind of coming back to where we were earlier, that point where I didn't get the raise I asked for. Because what happened was, I've achieved all this stuff in the year. I've proved I'm a high performer. I've gone above and beyond my role, delivered on exactly my role and more. And following that, I've been telling my manager through the year, I want a big raise. And as we got closer to our pay reviews, I actually pulled together all of this information on my performance, on my benchmarking versus other roles, and I shared that with my manager with what I was asking for. And so all the information was there, all the evidence was there. I've been saying that I was ambitious, I wanted more all the way through the year, and I had proven that I could do it. I could proven that I could step up. I had the potential to step up, and I'd proven that I could perform at this new level. And so that's why it was so gut-wrenching when I created this case, which to me was so watertight, to not get what I was asking for. But you might be wondering what happened next. And what happened next was, after I reflected from the call, you remember I was on the call, and I kind of accepted and stepped back because I needed a moment. So I actually went back to my manager and said I was very unhappy, in more words and more detail, but I was unhappy broadly with the changes to my pay, and I thought that it didn't reflect my contribution to the business over the past year. And so we went back and forward over the next couple of months, and this was I was actually really not expecting much out of this negotiation, but I kept pushing, and I thought it might even drive me away from the business eventually, because the business is in such a tight position that I just thought they're just not going to give me what I want because they don't have the money for it. But this is where I learned something that was very, very pertinent, which is no business doesn't have the money. It's all about how much value you can prove and you can demonstrate, and you can make yourself critical to the business. You will be, if you push for what you're worth, and the company thinks that you're going to leave, and you really truly are worth that additional money, you will be paid it, even if your business is in a tight position, because leaders will realize, if you make the case well, and if you've done everything right in this framework and this process, that they should be paying you more and that they need to find the money. And so what happened was, I got a call from my manager, and it turned out that they were going to give me everything that I'd asked for. And I was blown away by that. I thought that, and it was like a real bit of an emotional moment, because it was so unexpected, because I knew how tough the environment was. And it turned out that I was the only person to get that kind of off-cycle raise at that point. And so it was a story that kind of demonstrated to me the real value of following the process that I'm about to share with, and doing it really effectively. And so let's dig into the framework a bit, and I'll kind of tie it back to the story to make it clear how it works and how it links. So the framework goes like this: perform, develop, negotiate. And I'll kind of break that down and relay it back to the story to make it clear. So perform, what does it mean? It means understand what great looks like for your role, and then deliver on that without fail, consistently, again and again. Okay, so you've got to be aligned on what great looks like with your manager, and then you've got to deliver on that. And where that relates to my story was when I decided in my new role that I was going to step up and I was going to do the best possible job that I could. And I worked with my manager to understand what that looks like. But then then I got the opportunity to prove the next step, which is develop. And that's when these two new big issues and problems came in: the audit and then the gap in users. But they were kind of stretching opportunities, right? And so what's the second step? It's develop. Develop is essentially the need to both show your potential. So you have to demonstrate that you have potential, which means that you can do and learn new things quickly, and you can be competent at new things. And also show your ambition to take on that potential. Because if you've got a load of potential up here, but you don't have the ambition to take on the positions to get there, you're kind of just as useless. Well, you're not useless, but you're just as good to the business as someone else who does your job but doesn't have the potential. You're the same. If you're not going to take on that potential, it's worthless. And so you've got to have ambition and potential in the develop step. That's what it's all about, developing your career and proving that you can, for you and for the business. So that comes with potential, demonstrating potential, and having the ambition to go with it. And so where this ties back to my story is, with these two big issues that I had, that allowed me to demonstrate my potential to really step up and really do something that only a really good head of department could deliver. And in terms of the ambition, I mentioned that I was telling my manager all year round that I wanted to do more, I wanted to take on more, I wanted to a bigger salary, I wanted to be worthy of that bigger salary. And so ambition and potential is being demonstrated all year round. So I had this really strong foundation when I got to the final step, which is to negotiate. And then you build that strong case based on your strong foundation. And that's when you go in and you negotiate. And that's what I did. And what the negotiation step essentially means is to take your case to your business, make the case, and align on with your business what you're going to get as your new salary, or maybe even as your new role. It might be that you're negotiating a promotion and a raise. It might be negotiating a change to your role and a raise. There's a bunch of stuff that could be in there. But for me, I was negotiating a raise which which kind of represented the value and contribution to the business that I was bringing based on the past year. And that's why I was so shocked when I didn't get it. Well, surprised, maybe not super shocked, because I knew the business was in a tough situation. But the power of the process, if you do it super effectively, if you really perform to a high level, if you really show your ambition and show your potential is key. And if you negotiate hard and you don't give up and you don't accept what you're given, then it will happen. And it's always one thing to call out is that if you're not getting a raise that you want, it's always either because of performance, ambition, performance development, or potential. So it's always one of those three things. Might be more than one, but it's always at least one of them. So ask yourself, what is it that you aren't doing if you're not getting a raise, or what could you do even better to get a better or a bigger raise, to put yourself into a position where you could get even more. But yeah, that's the framework. I'll recap it one more time. Perform, which essentially means understand what great looks like and then deliver on that consistently again and again. Develop, which means show your potential and show your ambition. Your potential is through doing stuff, learning new stuff, doing it, showing you can be competent and you can learn quickly. And show your ambition. That happens through telling and speaking to your manager about it, showing that you're up for taking on more. And then negotiate. And you're going to negotiate based on that strong foundation that you've been building of performance and of development, ambition, and potential. So let me know what you think. Really interested to hear if the framework helps you. And if you are ready to kind of dive in more, learn more, land that leadership position that you really wanted, boost your salary even quicker, then you can either subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, or you can join my newsletter, which sends weekly and sends exclusive content only to people who have and subscribe to the newsletter. And you can do that by clicking the link. It's just in the description. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.